I guess in the process of explaining why I bought seven of them, you're also going to learn a lot about me and who I am and where I come from and stuff like that. So this portion of the video is inspired by Blueprint One Elite. Man, you must have come over here in a boat, and I didn't understand the context of it, so I was like, what you mean, man? I came here in a plane. And he was like, "Would you call me a liar?" And then we started fighting, and it was dumb stuff like that.
Yeah, there's love, there's hate, lies and games, faith.
All right, guys. Today we're going to get into a little bit of story time. I'm going to explain to you guys why I've bought 7 different Toyota Tacomas. And what they mean to me. And I guess in the process of explaining why I bought 7 of them, you're also going to learn a lot about me and who I am and where I come from and stuff like that. So I'll get into it. I'll just start the description right now. So essentially, I didn't come from much. I'm not even supposed to be here. I'm not even supposed to have this or anything like that, because originally I was born in the island nation of Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm Trini, and I grew up in one of the poorest parts of Trinidad, a place called Mova. And I was like way up in the mountains, and there was like a lot of crime. Like I saw people running around shooting guns, and I saw a man get cut with a cutlass right in front of me, and skin, basically get his neck chopped off and stuff. And it was like a really rough environment. But we grew up really protected because of my grandmother. My grandmother pretty much raised me when I was from born to 6 years old mainly. And she really instilled a lot of good in me, a lot of love in me. And she was so loving that our whole neighborhood, you could have the meanest, worst thugs or whatever, everybody respected my grandmother. So because of that, we were kind of left alone. So the crime part of it never really touched us or anything, but it was poor. And I'll give you an example. So we had it was what you would consider an efficiency that was cut in the middle for the living area, and then the back portion for a bedroom, and then the other portion is a kitchen. And I felt like we were fortunate to have that, but we didn't have a bathroom or anything inside. We used to use the bathroom as something called a latrine. I guess in America or the United States, we call that an outhouse. So yeah, so we were in this, that's what I would use the bathroom, and then everybody in the neighborhood would use that bathroom as well. And then we also had a public shower that we'd all use. But let's go for a drive, and we'll continue this while driving, so you guys can see some stuff with the Tacoma here. All right, so let's pick up where we left off, right? So yeah, so basically the quality of life as far as wealth and all of that wasn't great. We grew up very poor, but we grew up with a lot of love, and at the time, I'll be honest with you, from the time I was born till about 10, which is when I was in Trinidad, I never felt poor. I never felt like I was lacking anything. I was actually really quite happy, until I came to the U.S. And when I got to the U.S., and also in Trinidad, I never even really understood the concept of racism or anything like that, because from where I came from, it didn't matter the color of your skin tone or anything like that. We were all just Trini. That's just what it was, So yeah, I got educated a lot when I got to the U.S. When I got to the U.S., I remember I had a whole bunch of fights in school initially just because of my accent. We went to a really poor, the school I went to was in Newark, New Jersey, I believe it was, and it was really poor, poor neighborhood, same poverty, but the people were very different. Whereas I feel like we had a kind of an understanding, in Trinidad, where there was kind of mutual respect and stuff like that. There was none of that there, and I think I got suspended maybe 10 times for fighting, or probably even a little bit more, because people would fight me just based on my accent. And they're I remember one time a guy was "Oh man, you must have come over here in a boat," and I didn't understand the context of it, so I was like, "What you mean, man? I came here in a plane." And he was like, "Would you call me a liar?" And then we started fighting, and it was dumb stuff like that, So I went through all of that, Then eventually, my dad sent me down to Miami, live with my mother, who like I didn't really know that much or spend that much time with her. So, you know, it was kind of awkward for me, and I really just wanted to be with my dad back in Jersey because that's where I felt, you know, the most like I guess connected out of anybody in my life at that time, you know. And we go to Miami, and then in Miami I'm going to school in the hood there too, and same thing, just like a bunch of fights and stuff like that. And you know, my mom, I feel like she did the best that she could, and so did my dad, but you know, they just didn't have the information or the knowledge to do what I'm capable of doing now, right? So needless to say, you know, this is the same story like most people of color go through, like, and even people that are not of color. You know, a lot of people in the world today are going through extreme poverty, and it's mainly because of the people on top that control things. Like, I gotta actually veer off my story a little bit to say something. So I remember I watched that last Fast and Furious movie, and that last Fast and Furious movie, it wasn't that great, but there was a line in there that stuck with me, right? There was a line in there where one of the guys was talking to the nemesis of the movie, and he was saying, you're nothing but like a rich, spoiled brat, right? And that guy replied, he's like, don't you know, or didn't you get the memo? The world is run by rich, spoiled brats. And that is so true. A lot of these movies have a large element of truth in them, and you just got to pay attention to see what it really is, right? Because that is so true. The reason why the world is the way it is today is because there's a handful of people that run it that have been given. They never earned their wealth or power or anything. They were given to it by their parents and their grandparents, and it's been handed down for generations. And they all they know is whatever they want, they get it, and they'll do anything to keep their position of power, right? So that's the reason why the world is so messed up the way it is right now, is because you have a handful of people with, you know, unbelievable power and resources that kind of set things up to be the way that it is. But anyway, getting away from that, you know, grew up in poverty. Like none of my parents or anybody ever had a house with like a drive-in 2-car garage or anything like that. And for me, that was always a goal of mine. Like I always wanted to have that. And at the time, normally, like back then when I was coming up, none of them used to get like new cars. We would all get, you know, we'd all get like older vehicles and stuff like that off the lot or whatever. And that's what I was used to, you know, because that's what we could afford. So when I was coming up and I started making a little bit of money, I remember my employer, who was really cool, like, you know, me and him were like really, really like kind of close. And I told him, I was like, man, you know, I hate that, you know, sometimes I get to work late because my vehicle is so old. Like, you know, I have to go put water in it to keep it from overheating and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, no, say less. He's like, let's go to the dealership and find something you like, and I'll help you get it. And I was like, all right, say word. So we jump in his Mercedes. Like, he had like a big body 6 Series Mercedes then, and we go to the Toyota dealership because I had it in my mind for whatever reason that I wanted a truck, you know. So we get to and then I wanted it to be a manual gearbox because that's what I was used to, was like manual gearbox. So we went to this Toyota dealership, and mind you, at this time, like I didn't have any credit or anything. I was just like working, and you know, I didn't really establish any credit. So I see this blue Tacoma. It was like a bright blue Tacoma X Runner. And I was like, that's the one I wanted. And he was like, yeah, you sure? I was like, yeah. So we got the Tacoma. He put down like $4,000 of his own money, you know, to help me get it because I didn't have any credit. And I'm loving life. Like, everything's great. Like, I'm driving around this truck for like 2 weeks, and I feel like a whole new man, like a whole different person. And then like after 2 weeks, the dealership called me. They was like, yo, bring the truck back. And I was like, what do you mean bring it back? It was like, yeah, you got to bring the truck back. And I'm like, well, why? And they told me that it's because I don't have any credit and none of the banks will finance me, so just bring the truck back and they'll give me back my old, it was a Volvo that I had at the time. It was like, we'll give you back your car and that's it. So I was like, man, that kind of sucks. So I went ahead and I did it. You know, I returned the vehicle, but something burned inside me at that point. I was like, you know what? I'm going to work hard. I'm going to establish my credit, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to get a truck just like that, you know? And, you know, lo and behold, it was like maybe like a year later, I worked really hard, you know, just grind. and I saw another one for sale. I'll never forget, it was on sale for like $17,000 at the time, and it had like high mileage, but I was like, it looked the same. I was like, I want that truck, you know? And actually, no, sorry. It was $27,000 for it. My bad. It was $27,000. It had 17,000 miles on it. My bad. I bought so many of these, I get confused sometimes. So yeah, so I bought that truck, and I remember they gave me like a stupid high interest rate. It was like 20% interest rate or something like that. But I did it. Like I paid it, you know, and eventually I paid it off. And that was like my first like real vehicle that was newer, because like I said, it had 17,000 miles on it. And I paid it off. It was mine, and it just felt like, man, I actually accomplished something. Like I accomplished something in life. I felt really good, you know? So after I got that one now, I started doing a little bit better financially, and I added a Volkswagen to it as well. I got like a Volkswagen Jetta, and you know, I would go to the track a lot then. We do like a lot of racing, like always go to the track. And then I think at the time, that's when I met my wife around that same time. And, you know, we would go on these trips and stuff, and it just wasn't practical to have like those vehicles at the time. So I feel like I traded out of it, because we would take our family whenever we would go places. And I got like a Toyota Venza, and then I used that for a while, but then I switched out of that and ended up getting some Mazda Speeds. Then I got a Mazda 6. And then I just still had this urge to go get another X-Runner, another Tacoma. So I found one, got it. That one was all rusted out. Drove it for a while, and then the dealership called me back and was like, "Hey, you know, we after your last service, we realized that vehicle is really rusted. We'd like to help you get another one." I was like, "Bet, all right, no problem." And they were like really cool. I think that was a Rick Case Honda. And they found another one for me, sourced it, and basically just swapped it out. Got me the new one. I was able to take all the stuff from my old X-Runner into the new one. So then I think that's like, what, 4 of them at that point? So yeah, so we have like 4 X-Runners now. And then I was staying actually in an efficiency at that point. And, you know, I was like, all right, it's time to go get like an actual house. So... And I had that X-Runner, plus I bought another Camaro at that point. I had a 2013 Camaro SS 1LE. And long story short, like, to move, in order to get the down payment and buy like the house that I wanted to buy, like I had to sell both vehicles. So because I had the X-Runner was paid off, and the Camaro I was almost finished paying it off. So I basically sold all of them, and I bought a Toyota Tundra. I bought a Tundra at the time. And I kept that, was driving for a while. We moved in our new place, my wife and I, and everything's going pretty good. But then I start getting that itch again. I'm like, not only do I want another X-Runner, I want another Camaro too. So I think I got the Camaro first, and then eventually I found a black X-Runner with a TRD supercharger in it. And I was able to buy that one too for like $27,000. And that one had like 55,000 miles or something, but it was great. So I bought that, had that for a while, but then that one had an issue where it was like, I wasn't sure whether it was the tires or the wheels, but it kept doing a little shake once you'd get up to like 60, 70 miles an hour. And I'm like, man, why is it doing this little shake? And that just annoyed me so much that eventually I traded it in, and I got a SDI, a Subaru WX SDI. And got into like the SDI game for a while, and that was like the vehicle that I started the channel with, you know. So you guys never got to see any of the X-Runners on my channel, but yeah, so I started it with that, I started the channel with that SDI that I traded in the black X-Runner for. And once like I did that, I went through a whole bunch of cars after that, and it got me back to the point now where it's like I realized, like, now we're getting to the end of the road for these manual gearbox, naturally aspirated V6 Toyota Tacomas. And they stopped making the X-Runners back in like, I think like 2014, 2015. So you couldn't get them anymore. And I was like, what's the next best thing that I can get? And I remember I always used to get the blue X-Runners, but they didn't have the type of blue that I was looking for. So I ended up getting this blue. I think this blue is called Blue Crush Metallic. And it felt like I was coming home in a way. It felt like, I don't know, it felt like everything that I wanted when I was little was like I was able to finally start realizing some of those things. Like I have my, I bought my Camaro brand new off the showroom floor. I chose this truck, like I bought it from, a sales guy that I was really already kind of cool with, and I told him exactly how I wanted it spec'd out, and he waited until one landed on the lot, and this is exactly how I wanted it, except the seats. I wanted leather seats, but they just, I can do that myself later on, which I will do. But yeah, so I ended up getting this truck again, and now, like I said, we're in that place where I feel like Toyota is probably going to start making these trucks with they're going to start making them with turbo 4 cylinders and stuff like that, and that's not really me. So God's willing, I'd like to really I would love to hold on to this truck, and I'd love to hold on to the Camaro, and hopefully if the channel does well enough, or I start doing even better in business, then I would like to add on vehicles. I would like to go back and maybe get another STI or something like that and build it and do it the way I want to. I'd like to keep the Camaro that I have, and I'd also like to add a Camaro Z28, the 5th gen. I'd also like to add a 5th gen ZL1, a 6th gen ZL1, a Corvette, a C6 Corvette Z06, and maybe even a ZR1. There's a lot of cars that I'd like to add, and continue to grow. And while I'm adding and growing, I would like to kind of inspire as many people as I can. Like you guys don't hear me talk about it much, but the MOC, the people that I surround myself with, in Q to Chaotic, Blueprint One Elite, 100 Gang Nate, all these people, they all have similar stories. We all kind of came from nothing, and we're building our way to success the best way we know how. Like Q said something in his video yesterday where he touched on having a mentor and stuff like that. Like that stuff is so important. Luckily, he was able to find a mentor that was able to help him a lot. I really didn't have that luxury, so I'm and out of the crew, I'm the only one that doesn't have a degree. Like all of them have like degrees and stuff like that. Like I never got a degree, and for me, I built my way up a whole different way. You know what I mean? Like basically just, I read a lot, I study on my own. Anything that I want to learn, like I read it and study and learn how to do it well, and that's how I build my fortune, and that's how I continue to do it. But there's just something, like I feel like we got something special with the MOC, with the men of culture, with, like I said, with Q to Chaotic, Blueprint One Elite, 100 Gang Nate, and myself, Race Car Friends. Like I feel like we really got something special, and I feel this journey that we all have through our cars and the cars that we want to get, we'll be able to pass on a lot of knowledge and help you guys. You guys will be able to watch us in real time here on YouTube. You'll be able to watch us do things that we weren't, like I said, it was never in the cards for us. Like we didn't have a blueprint, shout out to Blueprint One Elite. We didn't have a blueprint on how to amass wealth and be healthy and happy. So we're figuring it all out in real time, and we're going to share that information with you. So if that's the type of content that you guys like to see and that you like to be a part of, and if you want to grow with us, then subscribe to all of us, follow us on Instagram and stuff like that. Be in tune for the journey that we're going through, and like, comment, share, like talk about, comment on the things that we're doing. If you disagree, you agree, if you have your story to tell, like I definitely want to hear it. So definitely jump in and put in your 2 cents. I'd love to hear from all of you. And that's pretty much it for this episode, guys. I'm going to come back with a little bit more fun content next episode, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys some insight into me and why I buy the vehicles that I buy. All right, so with that, Race Car Friends out. All right, so this portion of the video is inspired by Blueprint One Elite. When I saw like what his Camaro in Rapid Blue looks like at night, so I figured I'd show off a little bit of what the Blue Crush Metallic looks like at night on the Toyota, the 22 Toyota Tacoma TRD 4x4 Sport. I mean, it's definitely not Rapid Blue, but it works for me. It's kind of understated, but yeah. So I just got through making another Target run, and got my groceries and stuff there in the front. Got my recording equipment and everything here in the back, and yeah. So yeah, we have a lot of fun episodes coming up. So I hope you guys are really tuned in and subscribe to the channel, because things are only going to get better from here on out.